Ukraine's European allies say peace talks must include Kyiv. European allies have rallied behind Ukraine in a renewed surge of support, insisting that any peace talks with Russia must include Kyiv. A joint statement issued by the leaders of the UK, France, Italy, Germany, Poland, Finland and the European Commission came ahead of US President Donald Trump's meeting with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. A White House official has said that Trump is willing to hold a trilateral meeting, which would also include Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, but, for now, it remains a Trump-Putin summit, as initially requested by the Russian leader. Zelensky has said any agreements without Kyiv will amount to dead decisions. Trump has previously suggested that he could start by meeting only with Putin, telling reporters he planned to, quote, start off with Russia. But the US president also said that he believed, quote, we have a shot at organizing a trilateral meeting with both Putin and Zelensky. Whether Putin would agree to this is unclear. He has refused several opportunities to hold direct talks, and the two leaders have not met face-to-face since Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine more than 3 years ago. Speaking on Friday, Trump also suggested that there, quote, will be some swapping of territories in order for Moscow and Kyiv to reach an agreement, to which Zelensky reacted strongly. We will not reward Russia for what it has perpetrated, he said on Telegram. Any decisions against us, any decisions without Ukraine, are also decisions against peace. The Russians still impose the idea of exchanging Ukrainian territory for Ukrainian territory, with consequences that guarantee nothing but more convenient positions for the Russians to resume the war, he added defiantly. CBS, the BBC's US media partner, has reported that the White House is trying to sway European allies to accept an agreement that would include Russia taking the entire Donbas region in eastern Ukraine and keeping the Crimean Peninsula. The European leaders, in their statement released late on Saturday night, stressed that international borders must not be changed by force. Ukraine has the freedom of choice over its own destiny, they said, stressing that their nations would continue to support Ukraine diplomatically, militarily and financially. More on the war in Ukraine. Ukraine in maps. Tracking the war with Russia. Russian attacks on Ukraine double since Trump inauguration. On Ukraine's front line, twisted wreckage shows sanctions haven't yet stopped Russia. The leaders also said that a diplomatic solution is critical not just to protect Ukraine but also Europe's security. It's not just Ukraine that is struggling to be part of the Alaska meeting. European allies are also worried about their lack of influence over the outcome of any agreement that Trump could reach with Putin. In a post on X on Saturday, French President Emmanuel Macron raised concerns about Russia and the US excluding European involvement. Europeans will also necessarily be part of the solution, as their own security is at stake, he wrote. On Sunday, Zelensky thanked the allies for their support. The end of the war must be fair, and I am grateful to everyone who stands with Ukraine and our people today for the sake of peace in Ukraine, which is defending the vital security interests of our European nations, he said. Europe has taken a tough approach to Moscow, including imposing sanctions against Russian entities and providing military aid for Ukraine. Zelensky said he told Macron in a phone call on Saturday that the key was to make sure the Russians do not get to deceive anyone again. We all need a genuine end to the war and reliable security foundations for Ukraine and other European nations, the Ukrainian leader said. US diplomacy with Europe and Ukraine fell to Vice President J.D. Vance on Saturday, when he visited the UK and held talks with Foreign Secretary David Lammy, as well as two of Zelensky's top aides. Thanking Vance for the discussions, Andriy Yermak, the head of Zelensky's office, stressed the need for Ukraine to be included. A reliable, lasting peace is only possible with Ukraine at the negotiating table, he said. A ceasefire is necessary, but the front line is not a border. The summit in Alaska, the territory which Russia sold to the US in 1867, would be the first between sitting US and Russian presidents, since Joe Biden met Putin in Geneva in June 2021. 9 months later, Moscow sent troops into Ukraine. In 2022, the Kremlin announced the annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions, Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhia and Kherson, despite not having full control over them. Moscow has failed to achieve a decisive breakthrough in its full-scale invasion, but occupies large swathes of Ukraine's eastern territory. Ukrainian offensives meanwhile have not been able to push the Russian forces back. 3 swimmers killed by sea mines in Odessa, Ukrainian media report. 2 men and 1 woman were killed by sea mines while swimming in Odessa, according to Ukrainian media. A local official confirmed the 3 had been killed by explosive devices at beaches close to Zatoka, where recreational swimming is banned. The Black Sea has long been a popular holiday destination in Ukraine, but many of its beaches have been deemed unsafe since Russia's full-scale invasion. Officials have urged holidaygoers not to swim in prohibited waters. Witnesses told local outlet Dumskaya that the explosions happened at 11:30, 9:30 British summertime, on Sunday between Karolino Buhaz and Zatoka. All of them have been killed by explosive devices while swimming in areas prohibited for recreation, Regional Governor Ola Kuiper confirmed. This once again proves that being in unchecked waters is fatally dangerous. Police say they have not yet confirmed the identity of the swimmers, and warned visitors not to neglect safety measures. It has been previously determined that 3 vacationers, a woman and 2 men, died while swimming as a result of 2 explosions of unknown objects. The identities of the deceased are being established, the police report states. 32 areas are safe for swimming, with 30 of these located in Odessa, according to authorities. Trump demands homeless people immediately move out of Washington, D.C., U.S. President Donald Trump has said homeless people must move out of Washington, D.C., as he vowed to tackle crime in the city, but the mayor pushed back against the White House, likening the capital to Baghdad. "We will give you places to stay, but far from the capital," he posted on Sunday. The Republican president also trailed a news conference for Monday about his plan to make the city safer and more beautiful than it ever was before. Mayor Muriel Bowser, a Democrat, said, "We are not experiencing a crime spike." Trump signed an order last month, making it easier to arrest homeless people, and he last week ordered federal law enforcement into the streets of Washington, D.C. "The homeless have to move out, immediately," Trump wrote on his social media site Truth Social on Sunday. "We will give you places to stay but far from the capital. The criminals, you don't have to move out, we're going to put you in jail where you belong." Alongside photos of tents and rubbish, he added, "There will be no Mr. Nice Guy. We want our capital back. Thank you for your attention to this matter." The specifics of the president's plan are not yet clear, but in a 2022 speech, he proposed moving homeless people to high-quality tents on inexpensive land outside cities, while providing access to bathrooms and medical professionals. On Friday, Trump ordered federal agents, including from U.S. Park Police, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the FBI, and the U.S. Marshals Service, into Washington, D.C., to curb what he called totally out-of-control levels of crime. A White House official told National Public Radio that up to 450 federal officers were deployed on Saturday night. The move comes after a 19-year-old former employee of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, was assaulted in an alleged attempted carjacking in Washington, D.C. Trump vented about that incident on social media, posting a photo of the bloodied victim. Mayor Bowser told MSNBC on Sunday, "It is true that we had a terrible spike in crime in 2023, but this is not 2023. We have spent over the last 2 years driving down violent crime in this city, driving it down to a 30-year low." She criticized White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller for dubbing the U.S. Capitol more violent than Baghdad. "Any comparison to a war-torn country is hyperbolic and false," Bowser said. Washington, D.C.'s homicide rate remains relatively high per capita compared to other U.S. cities, with a total of 98 such killings recorded so far this year. Homicides have been trending higher in the U.S. Capitol from a decade ago, but federal data from January suggests that Washington, D.C. last year recorded its lowest overall violent crime figures, once carjacking, assault and robberies are incorporated, in 30 years. On Saturday, Trump announced plans on Truth Social to host a news conference at the White House on Monday, which will, essentially, stop violent crime in Washington, D.C. In another post on Sunday, he said the event at 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 1400 Greenwich Mean Time, would address ending crime, murder and death in the city, as well as its physical renovation. He described Bowser as a good person who has tried, adding that despite her efforts, crime continues to get worse, and the city becomes dirtier and less attractive. Community Partnership, an organization that works to reduce homelessness in Washington, D.C., told Reuters news agency that the city of 700,000 residents had about 782 people homeless on any given night. Most were in public housing or emergency shelters, but about 800 were considered on the street. As a district, rather than a state, Washington, D.C. is overseen by the federal government, which has the power to override some local laws. The president controls federal land and buildings in the city, although he would need Congress to assume federal control of the district. In recent days, he has threatened to take over the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, which Bowser argued was not possible. There are very specific things in our law that would allow the president to have more control over our police department, Bowser said. None of those conditions exist in our city right now.